Welcome to Modi Briefing. Great reads: India's Narendra Modi, Zelensky's impassioned speech, giant squid in Newfoundland. The Globe and Mail. This article highlights a selection of great reads from the Globe and Mail. The topics covered include the life and leadership of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's speech to the Canadian Parliament, the mystery of giant squids in Newfoundland and Labrador, the future of Canadian engineering company AtkinsRéalis, the issues with Canada's bureaucratic systems, the integration of Muslims in the West, the retirement of Canadian football player Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, and the new pop musical Six about Henry VIII's wives. The article also includes a bonus arts quiz question. The rise of Narendra Modi, the shrewd leader shaping India in his own strongman image. The Globe and Mail. Justin Trudeau's announcement that Canadian authorities have credible intelligence linking the murder of Sikh separatist leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar in June to Indian government agents has led to a diplomatic crisis between Canada and India. However, this is not the first time under Prime Minister Narendra Modi that India has acted assertively, defying Western pressure to sever ties with Russia and challenging China over territorial disputes in the Himalayas. India's importance as a potential geopolitical counterweight to Beijing, and as a major driver of the global economy, means that Ottawa's allies are unlikely to break with India over the issue. Meanwhile, in India, Modi's popularity remains extremely high. Despite a growing authoritarian streak and a number of policy missteps, including a disastrous currency devaluation, Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, is expected to win next year's general election. Critics, however, including Shashi Tharoor of the Congress Party, fear that Modi's third term could herald a point of no return for democratic India. Trudeau says of Canada's political mood, "People are mad." New York Times. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has claimed that every ally he has spoken to supports Canada's allegation that the Indian government was involved in the assassination of a Sikh nationalist in British Columbia. Trudeau said that people are quietly waiting to see how the situation unfolds, but that people are generally angry and anxious because things are not going well. He said that the promise of progress no longer seems to hold and people are losing optimism about the future. Trudeau expressed concern that people are turning to populist leaders who offer simple solutions but undermine democracy and institutions. He said that the way to solve this is not to come up with better slogans, but to actually address people's concerns and provide a path for success. Trudeau also discussed climate change, saying that wildfires are likely to become the new normal in Canada, and that the country is aggressively fighting climate change, but it will take time to see results. Fears grow that overseas targeted killing by states is on the rise. Washington Post. India has been placed on a list of countries suspected of carrying out targeted killings beyond their borders. This follows allegations that India was involved in the assassination of Canadian citizen and Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar on Canadian soil. If proved, India would join a group of countries including Russia, Saudi Arabia and Iran that have been accused of plotting lethal attacks overseas. China and other countries are also suspected of engaging in surveillance, intimidation and abduction campaigns on foreign soil. The U.S. has not publicly endorsed the allegations against India, but current and former U.S. officials consider the case credible. However, India is not expected to face meaningful sanctions from the international community. The U.S. will have to balance siding with Canada against its desire to cultivate closer ties with India as an ally against Chinese influence. New India-EU trade route, bringing the Gulf states closer? Deutsche Welle. The US, European Union, India, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and other member states of the G20 have declared their intention to create an India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, IMEC, according to a document prepared by the European Commission. The corridor would include a rail link, an electricity cable, a hydrogen pipeline, and a high-speed data cable. The planned corridor will be around 4,800 kilometers and will have two separate sections. The eastern wing will connect India with the Gulf states, and the northern wing will go from the Gulf states to Europe. The trade corridor is similar to China's Belt and Road Initiative. The US is trying to counter China's Belt and Road Initiative and bring its partners in the Gulf closer. The countries involved in the IMEC are not working according to the old geopolitical order that lined the US allies up against other groups, such as China and Russia. I spent months following the same people as him to find out who fuels his curious worldview. The Guardian. A writer for The Guardian has spent the summer following the Twitter accounts Elon Musk follows to get a glimpse into the mind of the Tesla CEO. David Runciman found Musk's timeline was influenced by accounts with a contrarian, anti-liberal, pro-Russia and COVID skeptic worldview. However, the billionaire did not appear to share these views himself, apart from his skepticism about the risk of inflation and his support for AI. Runciman also noted that Musk's Twitter timeline became heavily cluttered with promoted tweets as the Tesla CEO moved to monetize Twitter, leading him to conclude that Musk's outlook is upbeat apocalypticism. India's clash with Canada follows new wave of calls for Sikh homeland. Wall Street Journal. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has become increasingly concerned by calls from Sikhs overseas for an independent Sikh homeland called Khalistan to be carved out of northern India. The movement for Khalistan was in the spotlight again recently after Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau alleged that the killing of a Canadian Sikh activist in Canada was credibly linked to agents of India. India has rejected the allegation of its involvement as absurd, causing relations between the two countries to plummet. India has raised concerns over the safety of its diplomats with Canada, and has raised the issue of Sikh separatism with Western countries with large Sikh diasporas. Of particular concern to India is a campaign organized by a US-based group called Sikhs for Justice that has organized mock referendums in Canada and elsewhere, asking whether Punjab should be a separate country. India has also banned groups that advocate for a Khalistan homeland, including Sikhs for Justice. The idea of a Sikh homeland goes back decades, and the movement took a violent turn in the 1970s and 1980s. Canada-India row over murdered Sikh complicates West's bid to counter China. South China Morning Post. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's claim that the Indian government was involved in the assassination of Sikh independence advocate Hardeep Singh Nijjar will damage bilateral relations at a time when the West is trying to appeal to India. Trudeau alleged in Parliament that New Delhi had a hand in Nijjar's death, which was condemned by both government and opposition parties in Canada. The allegations suggest an unacceptable violation of Canadian sovereignty. The tensions between Canada and India are a setback to efforts to improve relations in a strategic attempt to counterbalance the growing threat posed by China. Yukon Premier says feds never briefed him on India allegations. CBC. Yukon Premier Ranj Pillai says he was not informed of any diplomatic tensions between Canada and India before embarking on a trade mission to India. During Pillai's visit, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau accused the Indian government of involvement in the murder of Canadian Sikh leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar on Canadian soil. The opposition leader in Yukon, Curry Dixon, criticized the lack of communication between the federal government and the territory. Pillai said he was not told of any concerns about the trip and that he had been in contact with Global Affairs Canada before his departure. Some in Canada's South Asian community see Hardeep Singh Nijjar's killing as sign of growing rift outside India. The Globe and Mail. The murder of a Canadian Sikh separatist in a Sikh temple car park in the city of Surrey in British Columbia has highlighted the divisions present in the Sikh community in Canada. Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a Canadian citizen, was murdered in June of this year, and the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, announced this week that Canada believes that Indian government agents had carried out the murder. Many in the Sikh community have said that this is evidence that rifts and rivalries that have previously only been seen in India are now becoming evident in Canada. Whatever happens in India spills over into the diaspora, said Gurpreet Singh of Surrey Radio. The more Modi oppresses minorities in India, the more those being oppressed react. Canada's Sikh diaspora is around 777,000 people, or 2.1% of the total population, compared to around 1.7% of India's population. That terrifies India, said Jaskaran Sandhu, a Brampton lawyer and founder of Baz News, a website aimed at the Punjabi and Sikh diaspora. Canada is the beacon on the hill for Sikhs globally. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.